Pleased to be joined by Arman Jovic, aka at PDT Scouting. You've probably seen him on the internet breaking down some of the very best international basketball players that are finding their way more and more into college hoops. And today we want to talk about Illinois' big commit this offseason, David Mirkovic. He's likely going to slot in next to the Jovic brothers and have a full-blown European front court in Champaign this year. But I was blown away watching him at the Hoop Summit. Very interesting player with some chippiness to him. Like he was going out of his way to seek out AJ DeBance a little bit. So I'm excited to learn more about Mirkovic with you, Armand. But let's start there. Is there an edge to him as a player that is like a big part of the scout on David Mirkovic?
Yeah, I think honestly, most Balkans have that chip. You probably saw it with Thomas Love last season. But it's good. It's good to recruit those kids because they're tough. They're going to be loud. They're going to get in your grill, and that's obviously a very important aspect. Actually, all of Big Z, Thomas Love, Mirkovic, they're teammates. They're brothers. They're like not Mirkovic isn't brothers, but they're like brothers. Obviously,
Yeah.
the two of them are twins, and they're all very connected. Obviously, same agency, so they know each other very well. And having that chemistry, and all of them are very loud and energetic and very chippy. I think is good. Obviously, having a front court with all those guys is going to create just going to create problems. Obviously on the offensive side, they're very skilled. But I think Mirkovic alone is a guy who I've really wanted to go to college more so than most European prospects because I think he fits the college game really well because his game is not really an NBA prospect in terms of his game. Like he's a little bit of an undersized big with who's very skilled, who's very advanced great feel. Can really pass the ball, can shoot it, but he's slow and he's not a very good defender. However, he's going to make his most on defense, even though he's got slow feet. He's just going to really body guys in. He's really strong, and he's just very skilled throughout the course. So I really like him a lot.
So when I first watched the footage of him, he's a really skilled player, as you mentioned. He's got a lot of offensive stuff he can do that just feels very quirky and just this unorthodoxness to it from people that watch college hoops. Maybe it's more familiar when you watch international basketball all the time, but it just a very unique offensive package with him. Then I come to find out he's listed as 6'9", 250 on 24/7 Sports. I don't know if that's up to date or not, but in my head, when you watch the film, he doesn't feel that big. He feels more like a guy that can't stretch out to the perimeter. And then I was talking to somebody I know on the inside Illinois beat a little more, and he kept framing this after they added Mirkovic of like, "Yep, we're going to play too big. We're going to play too big." And I was like, "That's not how I would have framed Mirkovic based on what I've seen, but maybe I'm wrong on this." Is the choice to build around Mirkovic with the Iviciches, is that them setting on basically playing two post players the entire game in your mind, or do you view it differently than that?
I view it as you can play Mirkovic in the post. He's had success, but honestly, his best success this past season has came from stretching the floor. And he didn't do that obviously in Hoop Summit, which could have been the first watch for most Illinois fans. But he can really stretch the floor. He's got like a really kind of slow base, but it's just cash money every single time. Really good release. And then I think the biggest thing is when he's in the perimeter and guys are going to close out on him, he's really kind of quick off the dribble. You wouldn't believe it, obviously, me saying it, but he's pretty quick. He's pretty quick off the dribble, and he's just got like a nice hop step, a nice floater, nice spin move. Just has like a really nice game. And honestly, like kind of growing up, like I first met it, I got to know him at 16 years old. So his biggest thing was to develop like Nikola Jokic, because that was his inspiration. Nikola Jokic, he wanted to be like Jokic, but um as he's grown, obviously he didn't grow to 6'11", so he didn't, or 7 foot, so he didn't have the luxury. But I think he's definitely developed into a more perimeter player, more on ball skills. Actually, watch. I don't know if you guys have footage for it, but in Basketball Without Borders last 2 years ago in Poland, he led the whole thing in scoring with NBA players, Kasparis, Omer Mayer, all these guys, Dame Sar. Like he led the whole thing in scoring, and he scored 14, 15 off the dribble jumpers, like off the dribble self creation. That was the highest in the whole event. So he's got a little bit more to his game than advertised, I feel like. So I'm really excited to see what he can do in the whole off season, working on his body, getting a little slimmer. how effective can he be off the dribble against high level athletes? Because you don't get that in Europe. You don't get a lot of those high level athletes, but I do think those kids come in really, really skilled and they know how to play. So I think I'm very excited to see what, the offseason looks like for him. Because Thomas Love, I thought got better, coming over.
You might notice there's a lot of lights on behind me. There's a big ring light I'm using to record this. You want to know why those lights stay on? Because of Underdog, because of these ad reads, people.
Yeah, we heard your feedback. You're annoyed that we keep putting underdog ads in the middle of our videos. Well, guess what? We got to keep the lights on, and we need some people to sign up for Underdog Fantasy. If you like these videos, if you want us to keep making videos, sign up with Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code SLEEPERS, and they actually have an awesome offer for you. You can receive up to $1,000 in bonus credits. 50% of your first deposit will be distributed in bonus credits, and you get a free pick. And Cart, I got a pick with Underdog Fantasy for this weekend that I'm already eyeing. We got the Pistons and the Knicks, first playoff series in a while for our favorite team. Cade Cunningham over 27.5 points. I'm taking higher than that for my pick with Underdog. Promo code SLEEPERS. Sign up with Underdog Fantasy. It helps the show. It helps us keep making these videos for you. Back to the show. 100%. Yeah, by the end of the season, especially, Visage was just a whole different animal than I feel like the first time we saw him. So I've one, not point of skepticism, but I guess just a question I would ask on it. So I think Kasparis was a one and done. That was the plan all along. Toma Visic, maybe you had questions on what he could be. We certainly questioned him before he ever suited up in an Illinois uniform. But I think at minimum, like, we could step back and be like, he's 7'1". Size does matter in college basketball. Like, you have a baseline if you're that big and that skilled, that even if it doesn't work, you're going to be able to fall back on that. With Mirkovic being 6'9", again, listed at 250, maybe he's a tweener between a 4 and a 5 somehow. You can play him next to Big T and it'll be a really skilled pairing. But you keep mentioning, like, he doesn't have the quickest burst here. He's not like the craziest athlete, and he's got an unorthodox game offensively. Is there any risk involved that college athletes are just going to be hugely detrimental to him? And he's not 7 foot to fall back on that. Like what is the risk in your mind with the way he plays offensively at this level?
I think he's gonna have to, it's gonna be a little bit of work for him to kind of get his shots off, create a little bit. It's not gonna be obviously. I think the biggest thing is he is a little slow-footed. I think every coach or every coach has coached him will tell him that. He's not quick. I think he's quick off the dribble because he's going to surprise people because most people really want to think his explosion is going to be nice. So he's pretty explosive off the dribble. I do think when he's creating self separation for himself, he doesn't really have that one-on-one twitch or self-creation that can really get him by guys. So it's more reliant on kind of post fades and kind of, that nature of it. So I think the Big Ten isn't the most, it's not the most explosive league. If he was in the SEC, I would have questioned it a lot more. But I do think it's a pretty good level for him. I think if you put him in that field of post creation, self creation, a little post fades, a little, 1-2 dribble pull ups, like he can probably get his money off that. And you probably don't need him to take, 10, 12 dribbles in the possession like Asparas did, because it's not his nature to do that. So I think honestly, if you just have him as a post connector and kind of create a little bit, he can do that. And then honestly, if you have him and Tomislav on the same lineup, even Big Z, like that, you just play 5 out and everyone's in the perimeter kind of hunt. So I think this could be very, very honestly, I feel like it could be a start of something different, having a front court that every front court player can shoot and take it to the rim. That's not really heard of, and
Yeah.
I guess Europeans too. So
It's going to be pretty difficult, terrifying for other Big Ten teams to try and match up with. Final question for me as Illinois builds this out. Obviously, they're bringing back Boswell. You've got the Visiches at the 5, Mirkovic at the 4. They still have more ads to make. We've got them rumored with Andres Stojakovic right now, Adam Miller potentially. Who knows where the SAR sweepstakes goes, but we would assume Illinois is going to add a few more perimeter options here that could be primary scorers. Just presuming a team built around Boswell, Visic, Mirkovic, entered 2 more portal guys. What type of role do you think Mirkovic will actually play in terms of output, production? Like, do you view him as like a 4th, 5th guy on a team? Do you view him as something more than that or less than that, maybe?
yeah, I'd probably so if you're putting, I'll just do hypothetically like a Adam Miller, Stojakovic type of talents. you assume Stojakovic is probably the guy, and then Kylan Boswell and Tomislav are going to be at least the next two guys. So I think he'll probably be fourth option, which is completely fine. He's just turned 19 years old. He's really young. He's probably going to be a 4-year player in college, truthfully. So yeah, just if he gets you 7 or 8 points per game as a freshman, and he's stayed in the same club since he was 12 years old, so I don't think he's going to depart. You know what I'm saying? So he's got the loyalty there, and you just build on him. 4 years is a lot of time to get him quicker, more agile, more explosive, and just honestly a whole better. So if you can get 7 or 8 a game as a freshman, you can get 12 the next year, 14, 15 the next junior year, and then All American senior year,
Yeah.
hopefully. So
I think you're
um,
seeing the flowers for Brad Underwood too, where like in an era of so
mm,
much change, the portal, like even guys you recruit at the high school level, wherever you get players from, there's threats
yeah,
for them to leave right now, even as they're seeing with SAR and that recruitment. But somehow, some way, they've built around this core of guys who are genuine friends and family, like you said, that have multiple years of eligibility left, who are really good players. It'd be pretty crazy to even think about now that you have Big T and Big Z and Mirkovic together being here for a couple more years together. And I think that's truly possible, if not the expectation at this point. So it'll be fun to watch that develop. All right. Thank you very much to Armand for being here. Make sure you follow him at PDT Scouting for all of your international hoops needs.